This video is on how to do conversions from one unit to another. You need to know conversion factors, especially if you're going from English to metric. Metric to metric, you should be able to figure them out, which I can show you how. And we are going to be using a method called dimensional analysis or the factor label method. You should have done this in previous science classes and also in some of your math classes. So a conversion factor is an equality. So these are two examples of conversion factors. So we've got the 1 foot equals 12 inches as 2 English units, or 1 meter is 100 centimeters as 2 metric units. But then we could also look at, we'll go green. We could do English to metric, like knowing that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. Now, these would be things you could look up if you didn't know them, except for this one. Metric to metric, you have probably learned this. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, or other acronyms to that that are similar. And what you can do with this is, if you are doing, let's say, a decimeter, and you wanted to know how that related to a millimeter, you would look at this and you'd say, which one's bigger? Well, they get bigger as you go this way. So a decimeter is bigger. So I'm going to say, in 1 decimeter, how many millimeters? So they're little. So how many millimeters? So I'm going to look at where a decimeter is, and I'm going to count how many letters over it is to get to millimeter. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That means that after my 1 for millimeter, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. That's how I come up with a metric to metric conversion factor. So now what you can do with these conversion factors is you can write them as a fraction, and they can be written either way, with either part in the numerator or the denominator, because they are equalities, meaning the top is equal to the bottom. So you can manipulate this to change one unit to the other. You can go either way. So they have unlimited sig digs, these conversion factors. If you haven't learned about sig digs yet, you will. And you need labels written with every number. That means you need units. Must have units. If your answer does not have units, you could lose points for that, because technically it doesn't tell us a whole lot if we don't know what the unit is. So let's do an example of a one-step conversion. So it says convert the following using factor label method, report your answer to the correct sig digs. I will do sig digs. If you don't know what they are yet, you can ignore that part until you learn more about them. So given the number 89.7 meters to kilometers. In order to do this, we need to know that conversion factor for these two units, meters and kilometers. So I know that a kilometer is bigger, so I'm going to write 1 kilometer. So my question is, how many meters are in a kilometer? So I can go back up to this, and I can say, okay, kilo is here, and the meter is the base unit here. So how many over is it? 1, 2, 3. That means I don't have 300, or I don't have just 3. I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. Because remember, the metric system is base 10, so a factor of 10. So another way to say this would be 10 to the 3rd power. That's where I get that 1,000. All right, so setting it up. So always start with the number and unit you're given. So I'm going to write 89.7 meters, number a unit. And I'm going to multiply and then draw my line for my fraction. Now, some students like to do this, set it up in a little different way, something like this, where they have a full line that's horizontal and then a vertical one. You can do this, just this multiplier right here. Oops. So this multiplier right here This piece, that's represented by this right here. You can do whichever way you like. I prefer this top way, so I'm going to keep going that way. So before I deal with any numbers after my first one, I'm just going to put in units. So this, whenever a number is by itself, remember it is over 1. So sometimes it helps to write this to remember that that number is in the numerator. And if I want that meter unit to go away, divide out, cancel out, I need to have it be opposite. So then I will have meters divided by meters. And anything divided by itself, like 5 divided by 5, will equal 1. That's why we need it on top and bottom. So now the unit I'm going to is this kilometers. And because I know this, I know, oops, how many meters are in a kilometer, I can just go right to kilometers on top. And now it's just a matter of plugging in the numbers from my equality. So 1 is in front of kilometers. So that's what goes there. And the 1,000 is for meters, or 10 to the third if you prefer, is there. And the meters then divide out because they end up being 1, and anything multiplied by 1 doesn't matter. And because the only unit I have left is the one I'm trying to solve for, I can write my equals. And this would be where I'd go to my calculator and I would type in 89.7 divided by 1,000. Now, do I need to also do this multiply by 1 here or this divide by 1 here? No, I don't, because multiplying and dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. So 89.7 divided by 1,000 would give me 0.0897 kilometers. Notice I have a number, I have a unit, and I do have correct sig digs here, which is 3, which we will talk about later if you haven't yet. So there's my answer for that example. So let's do one more example. Okay, and if you'd like to stop and try this one yourself and then watch it to see if you get it right, that would be wonderful. So I take my number given, 2678.4 with unit. Without the unit, it doesn't tell me a whole lot. And I'm going to draw out my fraction line. So inches to feet. If I'm going to do this in one step, I need to know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. And that will be something I would look up or would be given to me. You would not have to memorize something like that. And I'm first going to put in my units for my fraction line. So if I have inches on the top over here, right here, I want to put inches down here because I want them to divide out. And I can go to feet, so that's my top. So now I plug in the numbers. Before feet is a 1, before inches is a 12. So my inches divide out. And because all I have left that's not crossed out is feet, I can go to my calculator and type this in. And when I do, I type in 2,678.4 divided by 12, okay, which is the same as multiplying by 1 over 12, 1 divided by 12. And my calculator tells me it's 223.2. If you've learned about sig digs, though, I should have 5 because this number has 5 sig digs. So to give it one more sig dig, I'm going to put another 0 on the end. And my unit would be feet. And there is my answer. And that is how you do a one-step conversion.